Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, I'm very interested to jump into what is a pretty hot topic in the United States as we record this. And it really is right in your wheelhouse of your experience in conflict resolution and empathy and compassion, the whole thing. And I want to set this up and then get your thoughts, because we've seen in the last week or more, Pete Buttigieg face a challenge in his home city of South Indiana.
Yeah.
Where he is the mayor of a town who he is in charge of the police force. It's his responsibility to deal with any issues there. He left the campaign trail, went back to South Bend because there was a officer-involved shooting where a white police officer shoots a African-American suspect. And there are questions around that shooting. Was it justified? Was it not? And the African-American community is livid, to put it mildly, and wanting Mayor Pete to show that he's on their side, and they're claiming he should fire the officer immediately. He seems to be staying in the place of, I think that he left the campaign trail, went back to Indiana to deal with it. That's what he should do. It's his job.
It's his job, yeah.
And he also is looking at, he wasn't there for this shooting. He's looking at, as best he can,
fresh eyes. Yeah, he's got to come back with objective eyes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what are the facts and what does the evidence show? And there is some questionable circumstances because the body camera for his police officer, which they're supposed to have on and using, was not on. So that is suspicious. But is there evidence this was a racially motivated act and not a police officer doing his job? And so I see Mayor Pete is in a no-win situation, and he's trying to do the right thing, it appears. But he seems like he's not.
Well, Tom, the thing is, we do get stuck as human beings in our mindset. And this is a very challenging conflict that is up, to say the least. The phrase "no-win situation."
I sort of labeled it, didn't I?
No, it's good. It's exactly what you're supposed to do, Tom. That's your job, man. Your job is to label it. The phrase "no-win situation" it's whenever there is a definitive moment. We can't go back and take the thing back that is really horrific that took place. We've got to be able to, as human beings, to slow down and really get the gravity of what has been lost. No matter, who the person is. It's a life that has been lost. That's where the sweet spot is in dealing with conflict, is facing the most difficult, the hardest question first, not the trying to problem solve the result of the hard issue. You got to face the thing that's in front of you first. When the news comes in, tell me more about what happened. when he is first in the quote unquote gotcha moment. Because the cameras could be rolling when the gotcha moment comes on. Well, the way you're describing the story, initially, I feel sad and disheartened about the loss of life anytime it happens in my city. That's the first sentence that comes out of a person's mouth.
Wow. And you know what? That would have, I think, really framed the entire situation much better. It would have had the people who right now are angry with Pete Buttigieg saying, you need to fire the cop, and asking him if Black Lives Matter. And he's like, of course Black Lives Matter.
You're already behind the eight ball here. You already can't get a clean shot at the primary issue. The primary issue is loss of life. One of the challenges is that is to face the moment where we as human beings have got to pursue truth, pursue justice, and at the same time, at the back of our mind, as well as America needs to have reconciliation about how justice hasn't taken place for groups of people in the United States, specifically African American people and others that are all in that place. So in this moment, huge moment is I feel deeply saddened and disheartened and shocked by the news of someone in my city dying because of what happened. Who knows what happened? He didn't know what happened, but at least he's keeping it and putting some breath. There's a rush to problem solving where really there needs to be a rush to empathy and compassion.
That is so brilliant there, Bill. I mean, he didn't recognize the number one need that the citizens have.
Right. And how torn he's going to be when the need for safety for the police officer also needs to be met. But a part of their job, I don't know, it's on the side of many cars, protect and serve.
Right.
The protection part works two ways. Number one, protection for the citizen. That's the one that's on the first side of the fence. Serve the citizen. Then it applies back to the police officer. Protect yourself and serve the greater community.
Right.
So that's when, if there is a weapon, if there is, someone acting out in your direction, acting out towards another person.
Yeah. Threatening, I think, is
threatening.
Yeah.
But we got to see that on what's happening there. Now, the need for truth gets skewed a little bit in our modern society because one event that happens in the news cycle translates to the next event. So you can have an event that happens, I think it was in Phoenix, with the doll, the little girl stole a dollar
right.
store.
A Barbie doll from a dollar store.
From a dollar store. And the police are treating it like it's a terrorist attack.
That was another shocking incident.
Shocking.
And caught on multiple cell phone cameras. So that justice and that escalation, when that police officer translates it to paper. Oh my gosh. Did you see that? That was amazing. He's like, oh, what did the officer say with the man when he was arresting him? It says,
Yeah,
I ordered him to spread his legs, or I forget the exact
yeah,
quote,
and
but
then
something.
the things. Then I had him spread. It's like, yeah, no, I kicked his leg out, you know, in an escalated way to meet my own need for safety, and my adrenaline and cortisol was late because there was someone who stole something. It's like,
Yeah, okay, there was, but my gosh.
proportional. Now,
Oh,
we are Monday morning quarterbacking. We are, you know,
well, for sure we are.
yeah, we
That's
are,
fair.
and the need for safety is very important to police officers, and you and I will never know all the things that they face and their adrenalines and their things that are showing up, and the way they've been escalated and desensitized to their daily experiences of protecting and serving, and then picking moments of restraint that we don't get a chance to see.
Agree 100%, Bill. You're right. And the other thing that I think that, when we see an officer involved shooting, it very often ends in the death of this suspect. And I don't think that, everyone realizes that police are not taught to shoot to immobilize or to shoot to, to shoot to deter or to shoot to disable and prevent someone being able to hurt them. They are trained to shoot to kill, and it's instinctive when they're in that situation because there are actually life-threatening situations, right? And it's very hard to tell the difference between one that may be life-threatening or only, potential bodily harm threatening, right?
Right.
So it's in that moment for people, I think we all need to recognize that you've got to comply with an officer, whether they're right or wrong in their accusation or suspicion of you. And I'm sorry, I just felt like I wanted to mention that because I think that oftentimes people are like, well, do they have to kill them? Well, they don't have to, but they have this deadly weapon that is what they need to use to save their life. And it's kind of hard to be precise and use it to save life and preserve life at the same time. So, but
and there's a preset mindset. That's the thing that folks are so African Americans are so furious about. It's the preset mindset that an African American person is more dangerous than a white person, and
that's a racial bias, is it not?
racial bias. And
Yeah.
they're looking through a filter.
Yeah.
And, and it's not like we haven't had multiple levels of exposures and desensitizing and or reinforcing those stereotypes that are so not true, and I'm just thinking about one videotape I watched, what the things I tell my black son.
Oh, yeah.
There's a videotape like that. It's like, and it's talking about the things that African American parents need to tell their kids about how racial injustice is going to be projected in their direction and how it is life endangering.
Right.
At a younger age than a white parent would ever have to tell a white kid.
Absolutely. And we see this
really disturbing.
It is disturbing.
And sad. I feel sad. I feel disheartened, touched, moved about that difficulty that it really doesn't, it doesn't need to be there. And in the video that I remember watching is this African American guy goes, I'm not a scary looking black man. And meanwhile, his wife looks at him and goes like, yeah, honey, you are a scary looking black guy. And she's recognized it, but he doesn't even see it inside himself. I'm not scary.
Right.
But that's not the problem, is he's been already identified as that person.
He's been labeled, and subconsciously, I think, with many.
All right. So before you and I get caught in the really terrible, terrible situation of two white guys talking about black people's issues, watch how you and I can have a constructive, supportive narrative. Let's turn it so we turn into human beings now, not white guys, talking about crap we don't know. Okay.
Right.
Because you and I don't have to wake up in that situation. We just don't. We'll never know the level and the proportion. We just won't. We won't know about it. We won't know what it's like to see images of ourselves that look like ourselves being cast in that direction, being talked about in that way. We won't know. And we will not carry the experiences and the generation, let alone the slavery. We are clearly on the other side of this issue. We are not there. That's the scary honesty. The scary honesty is we will not fully get it. But we do have the ability to have empathy and compassion for the experience and upgrade our skills and mindset. We do. We can do that part of it. Because whenever I go into a high conflict situation or handle a very, very difficult question or teach people how to deal with difficult questions, we can have some skills. So we'll do the first one is I'd like to kind of gently shift back on, here's a police officer and here's a citizen. And here's what Mayor Pete could access as far as language and talking points when he's dealing with this issue. Number one, empathize with the loss of life. Number one, I feel deeply saddened by this experience the way you're describing it to me. I feel confused and bewildered and want to get to the bottom of this very difficult situation that you've described to me. It's important, here it comes, that safety to take place for the citizens in my city and safety to take place for African Americans throughout the nation.
Wow.
I need trust to be restored between the citizens that rely upon police to have trust between them and the police officers that may or may not have taken place in this situation. Why? Because he doesn't know yet.
Right.
Making sure that the citizens have reassurance. See, I'm tapping my fingers. I'm getting irritated by it. They have reassurance that I'm going to do what I can and whatever I can to clean up, to make right, to make sure, to double our efforts on situations like this happening in this city as well as throughout the United States. And come back around to or experience that I am playing full out to find out what the truth is in this situation.
Wow. Bill.
I am on the citizen side, but I am not offending any police officer right now.
And that is, I think, to most of America from the outside looking at this situation in the media, this line that you just walked, which for you was instinctive because of your vast experience with this, all these concepts, this language, de-escalating conflict, on and on. I think most people can't even see it. It's like I said, I called it a no-win situation, but I think you just turned it into a win-win situation.
Yeah, well,
I
I'm
mean,
moving. I'm moving towards it. I'm moving
maybe,
towards it.
yeah,
I've got half of it. I've got half of it done. Because the other part of it, because you're right, is that I've got to walk the line of where the greatest loss is. Where's the greatest loss, Tom?
it's obviously the life of the person that
So
is no
that's the
longer
greatest
with us.
loss.
Yeah,
You know, whether it's the discussion, you know, it's the great, you've got to have empathy for the loss of life.
absolutely.
Got
And
to have
actually,
empathy for that.
as we're talking about this, I even regret saying, you turned it into a win-win situation because
No,
no, I regret it because to me, the loss of life is never going to be a win situation. So that's probably not the right way to phrase it.
well, let me see if I got that right. Let me give you some empathy about the disappointment that you feel, because you do feel disappointment of it. And many politicians will use a phrase like that, and that becomes the "I gotcha" moment that then goes viral. So
Right.
Tom, I when our resources and our phraseology and our belief structure and our imprinting blurts out a phrase like that, and this is what causes. This is what causes, regrettably, the candidate to lose. They can't get a. They're being so cautious, they can't get a winning moment.
Right.
And they're being so cautious they can't get a winning moment, and then they don't have the languaging skills to create a differentiation moment, which is what you and I are talking about right now.
Right.
When we purchase truth, this is the positive side of purchasing truth. I am purchasing this with integrity. I'm purchasing this with a fulfilling narrative that allows me to stay connected to my humanity as well as extend the humanity to what's happening on the other side. I am in a place of integrity of doing it in a difficult situation with a difficult experience. So if I am looking to create a compassionate moment, that's the win-win that you were just talking about.
Right.
Bill, now let's erase. It would have sounded like, Bill, it's interesting, or it's really powerful to move back to a compassionate moment, that there's no real win-win that is taking place. See, I'm using your phrase, but it's after.
Right.
After compassion and empathy, then there's no real win-win. Your brain would have naturally adjusted to it.
Oh, sure.
Here's when parenting goes south. Here's when relationships go south. Here's where teacher-students go south. A tragic communication between.
Right.
Because the way we've been trained is more through labels and diagnoses and problem solving and fixing and explaining, instead of through a language of compassion first.
Well, and that is the whole point of this entire situation in South Bend. And so I do want to come back to that toward the end, but let's continue on the path. So you said you were like halfway there. Let's continue down the path then.
Well, the second half of the equation is empathy for the police officer, and also the scary honesty of the struggle. The role of a police officer is to protect and serve the public, to provide safety for the public. And a part of that safety is the interaction between the police officer and the citizen. Any one of the citizens in my city has got to experience that protection, that service, and that safety is coming between the police officer and the citizen. And if the citizen is not bringing safety back in the direction of the police officer needs to meet their own need for protection and safety. When the citizen is not bringing that safety and protection back. So we don't know what the truth is right now, because the thing to both have an experience of anger and helplessness and skepticism about is the camera was not on.
Right.
Now I get to talk about the camera issue over here. But I don't want the camera issue to be talked about when I'm talking about the loss of life of the citizen. I don't want the camera to be talked about when I talk about the role of the police officer. But I got a chance to talk about here's what we can rely upon for truth at this time. And we want to spend time with that truth and not let other moments of injustice to affect the proportionality of this experience, affect the truth of this experience, and also to see how these circumstances set this thing up, either inside the officer or inside the situation. Because it's not made in a vacuum, this decision to pull the trigger.
Right.
It's not fully made in a vacuum. But there is influences and biases, because we are talking about truth and truth perspective. We are talking about influences regarding mindsets. We're talking about generation over generation of where trust and truth has not been met.
Sure. Well, and like you brought in the example, which you're saying don't let it be influenced by other things, but the reality is, the average American can't help but do that. And a week before saw this incident in Phoenix where the police are it's like a SWAT team attack on this family that with a dollar store Barbie doll that was, we don't even know if it was intentionally taken.
Horrifying.
And so that in so many Americans' minds paints the police as overbearing,
right?
And out of proportion with even if the in air quotes here crime happened, it's a type of thing that deserves an officer knocking on their door at home and saying, hey, did this happen? Did maybe you guys not realize that doll was taken from the store? We need to, find out about that. And instead it's, all the language as they're trying to get.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the parents getting home? The police officers can get there and be there in a distance.
Yep.
They could get there and be there a distance. The kids get home, the parent gets home, the doll The doll's taking place. The doll's taken into the house. The poor little girl's bringing this doll in. And you and I are, again, this one's an easy one because there isn't the loss of life, but there is a generational trauma that has just been set forward in the field of time that someone else has got to pay for now.
Right.
Who? Society.
Right.
Who has to pay for that? The next police officer, the story of that little girl telling about the experience of, dad being treated this way, mom being treated this way.
Well, what about the children? I mean, to me, the thing I thought about is how psychologically messed up are these children going to be now at having this happen? They're probably having nightmares every night because of it.
We are so sensitive as human beings. Our bodies are soft animals. We just are. We're soft animals. And can you imagine the difference would have been is just modestly, let alone to the people at the dollar store, the police officer reaching in his pocket and pulling out $1. What was it again? Here's $1. I pay for the kids' thing.
Right.
It's I mean, that's the easy part.
Right.
Instead of giving them something. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make this a protect and serve moment for the police officers. The protect and serve. So the protection part is there's no danger going on here with a doll being stolen for $1. No, there's no protection piece in here.
Right.
The serve though is not so bad. They could literally go up and knock on the door.
Right.
And say, hey, I want to let you know this situation took place. Now, the mom is going to be mad and scared. The police officers at the door, mad or scared. One of those is to come in next.
Sure.
I'm going scared first. That's what I'm going first. Mad, angry second. Hey, listen, want to let you know that your daughter this thing happened. Is it okay if I take a moment to talk to her? Police officer gets down on his knee, face to face with the little girl. Hey, listen, I'm guessing that you really love that doll. Is that right?
Yes.
In the store, things at the store are really important. Here's $1 for that thing that you got there in your hand. Can you promise your mom, that you'll let her know the next time you have one of these things and take them? And in fact, can I give your mom $1 right now? So the next time, if you'd like $1, that you can ask her for it instead.
Wow.
Now, I'm quarterbacking in hindsight.
Of course.
Right?
Oh, yeah. No question.
My logical mind is on in charge. My language mind is in things. And I'm doing a moment of proactive leadership and training. And I look at the mom, I'm going like, would you be willing to bring your daughter some kindness about how much she really loved this doll and how important it is for her to go for the things that she really wants in this world? And also that it's okay for her to ask you for those things. And that for the next $1 is on me. I just want to let you know I gave the store $1 on your daughter's behalf for the doll that she took. Because we do want fairness to be met for the store, for the things that they have.
And what's incredible is that teaches the child and the parent a bit. It's saying, hey, there was maybe a strong word, but an injustice here, or there was something that wasn't in alignment with fairness, and that the store was didn't get the value for that product or whatever. It teaches them that that was wrong without scolding them, and it's much more
None.
effective.
Yes. See, Tom, we can't enforce values with violence. Shall we let that lead the piece?
Wow.
You can't enforce values with violence without a consequence on the other side. We've only tried that with every war to enforce the value. Now, with wars, there are, people with values that might be different than ours. But here's the thing. They all inherently have the same values, and most of them don't have those values corrupted or hijacked. When a value is hijacked or corrupted, you get a terrorist.
Okay.
Now I could do it on the other side. When you have the value hired and corrupted, you get an overreactive police shooting or police incident.
Sure.
That's not protection, and that's not serving. And who the hell are you serving? The store? The dollar? Capitalism? What the hell are you serving? You're not.
Sure.
The value of serving has been proportionalized or hijacked. And then the language and the thoughts and the behaviors that follow with it. I can have just as much compassion for a terrorist whose values that had been hijacked because the value is still there. It's just been co-opted with a tragic response.
Right. Wow.
All right. So what leaders? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you're going where I was about to go, Bill. So
leadership.
Let's take this back to the missed opportunity for Mayor Pete Buttigieg and how he could have met the needs of the citizen, the needs of the police officer, and the police force in general, right? And then probably the police unions all over the country who are looking at this, and exhibited leadership and allowed the process of justice and truth to take place.
So what Mayor Pete, what the candidates, and then we got to come around on the other side to see how Trump does this. Okay, so let's do this one first. Okay. He's going to be peppered by questions. And he's going to get all the politicians are going to be peppered by questions. People are going to come up to them and say tragic things to them. And when there's a gotcha moment, the opposition will take that language gotcha moment, that faux pas, and proportionalize it is, see, that's what they think of you. Hillary Clinton's gotcha moment is the one that's been amplified, called deplorables. A follower of her says the word deplorable in her direction. She listens to it, and in a moment, she thinks about, and her mind flashes to something that fits the deplorable definition.
Right.
It says deplorable.
Right.
With no context on what she's defining as deplorable. Now all of a sudden you got t-shirt. I'm one of the deplorables.
No, the entire base on the other side felt like she was labeling them.
Them. Whether it's an identity, a political party, or a race, African American, as soon as somebody gets put into a box and labeled and diagnosed, compassion drops off, empathy for the other side drops off, the ability to have objectivity and the ability to respond to difficult questions plummets because the emotion of the candidate is high and their ability to respond is low. So let's take Mayor Pete's moment.
Right.
Say the Black Lives Matter sentence to me that he had.
Yeah.
He had
Okay.
to face
Okay. Sure. Which is,
Yep.
do you think Black Lives Matter, Mayor Pete?
I feel sad and disheartened. And all life needs to be protected. Black lives do matter. We need some clarity on truth right now. And we need to protect life. And we want to make sure that justice looks like we're working off of truth in this incident and not let past injustices that have taken place against African Americans to be projected into this moment. But we want to take this moment as a moment where a life was lost. Let's keep our eyes on finding truth here. Because as the mayor of South Bend, my job is to advocate for safety and protection for the citizens and make sure that the police officers are safe and get to go home to their kids. And this one person cannot go home to their family. And that's where the loss is at this moment.
Wow. Talk about a de-escalating, and there's something empathetic there for everyone involved.
Yes. And in the moment, it does take a little while, a very short amount of time, to be able to respond in a compassionate way for this situation. And as a human being, just even talking about it, and you and I talking about it, there's a swirl of sadness that's going on in my body right now. It can't help but happen that way.
Absolutely.
It's got to happen inside me because guess what?
Life was lost. Period. And
now, so the candidate is going to struggle. The candidate is going to struggle right now because they've got to fight back the projection from all past events throughout history.
Right. Talk about proportionalized.
that are coming into this moment. So the candidate's got to advocate for accountability and integrity, but also has got to handle the mourning of a life that really needs to be at center stage. It's got to be. Somebody's got to bury somebody right now.
And unfortunately, what we've seen happening is, thus far anyway, at the time we're recording this, that Mayor Pete has been almost making the same mistake you and I have talked about. And I'm not saying the situations are exactly the same, but making the similar mistake that we say the media makes when they're confronted with something that's not true and they come back at it with facts. And I think Mayor Pete is without coming at this with enough empathy and compassion, is trying to say, well, I don't have evidence that this was a racially, motivated killing.
Doomed.
And that is just, that's it. It's like, you're done.
Done. Done. Done. You've got to go empathy and compassion for the greatest problem. And in this moment, here's where it becomes really interesting and also upsetting at the same time, is that in the same week, the experience of the drone being shot down, the president thinking about this counterstrike, and then saying, no, we're going to lose 150 Iraqi lives, and I don't want to do that. The loss of life is not proportional. It's not proportional. This multi-million-dollar thing is not worth the loss of 150. The way it's framed is not worth the 150 loss of life. Who's getting credibility right now where Pete's taking a hit?
Oh my gosh,
He's getting credibility, whether it's real or imagined, whether it was set up or not. That's not what the brain does. What the brain does is like, oh my God, he looks proportional.
Or he looks empathetic to
innocent Iraqi lives. He looks empathetic to that.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's part of my judgmental mind it's sort of like has been manufactured and crafted and brought about by the series of decisions that he's creating.
No, but it doesn't matter, isn't it?
It doesn't
every
matter.
Citizen's elephant brain. It's tapping that brain, right?
It hits the elephant brain. The brain sees the president is being compassionate and empathetic to life. It gives the people on his side, yes, this person does care about life. See, he does care about others. See, he is empathetic. See, people call him non-empathetic. He just showed an empathetic moment. It doesn't matter if it's manufactured or not. It's the brain is seeing it and validating that my guy. I mean, he literally picked up somewhere between, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 500,000 votes.
Oh, I'm sure.
By that moment.
Yeah.
And Pete lost.
Well, this has the ability to
until he recover. If he can recover, he can recover.
He can recover, but this, if it isn't done right, this has the potential to really, looking back a couple months from now, to be the beginning of the end of his candidacy. This could take him down. So it's a big, serious moment here.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some similar moments that Joe Biden has. There's similar moments that Cory Booker has. There's serious moments that, each person has, that when they're really not framing the moment. It's one thing about the President Trump that is both disturbing and also admirable, is that he frames a sales, marketing, promotional narrative effectively. He frames it. He draws all four corners of the frame. Let me say it. All four corners of the frame. He provides it. Now, there's no picture in the frame because he doesn't deliver on any of the frame. He doesn't deliver the picture. But he'll say, oh my gosh, the wall is so much more beautiful now. We've done some wonderful things on the wall.
Oh, when hardly anything has been done. But that's not what people hear.
It's much better. I ordered it to be this way.
Right.
It's thicker than what it was, than I promised you the last time I promised you the wall. It's better designed now.
Yeah, it's more beautiful. I've heard that.
It's more beautiful now. It's like, I think you've done like only X number of miles here, dude. And that was all preset before you even got there.
Yeah.
So very unsettling, because in marketing, branding, marketing, and sales, it's all about the sizzle. It's not about the steak.
Right.
And if you get caught talking about the steak, you better go back to dealing with the reality of it and empathy and compassion moments. You know, get and on the debate stage, some candidate, even the main candidate, will be drug into, and the question will be asked by someone about Trump's empathy towards the Iraqis. And he now has a moment where he looks empathetic and compassionate. Here's another one, Tom. During the campaign, when Trump ran the first time, there was a guy that traveled to Iowa whose son overdosed on heroin or overdosed on an opioid.
Okay.
And said there, what President Trump, candidate Trump, what are you going to do about the opioid crisis? And gave Trump an empathetic moment. We're going to handle that. You're a good father. He was a good son. He's proud of you right now. We're going to do something about that. When he gets in office, well, the moment then sets up that he's going to do something about big pharma. He's going to do something about big pharma selling drugs, saying that they're not addictive when they were, and they knew it. And how many lives did that cost? And how many doctors trusted pharmacies, the label in their prescription? You know, this is not addictive. It says right here on the bottle. It might be, so you might want to hold back a little bit. Check in to see how your body's doing. No way. Completely addictive. That father later on said he used me in that moment. That moment got amplified. It got proportionalized. Just like this Iraqi thing is going to get proportionalized. Just like Pete's moment is going to get proportionalized. See, Trump is way better than him.
Right.
Look at, he saved 150 Iraqi lives, and he really respects life. Look at the judges he puts in place. They're going to overturn abortion. He really respects life. You don't care about that. It's a branding and marketing opportunity in order to raise his sizzle perspective. Because the rest of his content and the rest of his actions are not in alignment with truth. So we're back to purchasing truth. How do I get truth to work? How do I get truth to work for myself, not another person? And this is how it gets disproportionalized. And here's how empathy and compassion and powerful language can be used to really frame the narrative and look at the center of the picture and stop looking at the frame.
Wow.
It's so bad. So bad.
Amazing.
Anyways, so Tom, this has been I'm so glad that you brought this up. I'm so glad that you set the ball on the tee a little bit for us to hit. And that's the power moving forward, is getting it to engage in leadership and what candidates are going to struggle with. And they have to deal with carrying the sins and burdens of the past, yet with empathy and compassion, have to restore accountability, restore integrity, restore the rule of law, restore the ability to trust, restore the pursuit of truth, get truth to be proportionalized, both nationally and many times globally. We've got to look at these things. Here's this moment. Here's this perspective. Here are these human beings that are working out this issue. And then how are we going to have our best moment with this and not escalate the conflict, yet alone clear up the accountability of the past, clean up the integrity of this moment. Yeah. The police officer has got to be asked about this situation many, many times. And also, if we want a restorative experience to take place, somewhere, someone, somehow, and if I was Mayor Pete, it might sound like this in this moment. He's after the fact. He's been caught with a gotcha moment. Here's his new moment. We're going to be working to have a restorative process between the police officers and this victim's family. A what? There's the law that needs to be applied, and we need to deal with that. But the restoration for the community needs to take place also, just like restoration needs to take place in our nation.
Wow.
Now he's a president.
Yeah.
Not yet,
Bill.
though.
No, not yet. Not yet. Oh, well, wow. That was a great discussion, Bill. Thanks so much. I really appreciated it, and I hope our listeners do too.
Tom, thanks a million. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.